While the exploits of the Europeans have been properly documented and recorded by Western authors, the voices and the experiences of the indigenous tribesmen have only been documented through the eyes of serving Special Forces officers. Many people may not have known about the sacrifices of these men in their roles of assisting in the groundwork for the reoccupation of northwest Borneo. As early as the 1930s, the Japanese began their plan to increase their facilities and capacity. It was said that the Japanese went to war for the sake of its self-existence and self-defense. The oil fields in Miri, Seria, Balikpapan and Tarakan, Borneo was amongst one of the first strategic targets of Japanese expansion. As the Japanese' main purpose was the exploitation of the oil and rubber to support their war machines, they embarked on plans to increase their oil storage and refining their capacity in anticipation of a future scenario of hostilities. When the Japanese advanced through Southeast Asia in early 1942, an offshoot of Special Operations Executive was formed in Australia to carry out the resistance and was known as the Special Operations Australia, or SOA. The Australian service personnel in SOA were administered by a holding unit called the Z Special Unit. The unit comprises the members of the Navy, Army and Air Force with a few civilians of many nationalities. This party is codenamed Samut. The principal task of the unit was to gather information from within the enemy-held territory. The unit provides information for insurgent attacks, ambushes and guerrilla warfare. They also trained in armed secret armies. This is a long-lost story that follows the tale of the indigenous tribesmen who served alongside the guerrillas under the Services Reconnaissance Department, SRD, also known as Z Special Unit or Z Force, during World War II. For this project, investigations on the surviving veterans settling in the many routes used by Z Special Unit and the local guerrillas were conducted. Trying to identify and trace the surviving veterans proved to be a challenge in itself, as many of them have passed on. Only 4 of the names on the list are still alive. We managed to interview Pengulu Ngimat Ayu and Ketua Kampong Bala Tu'uh. The other 2 were reported to be too sick to be interviewed. Some relocated to different parts of the state. A couple of them were senile. It all started when the first of Samut parties were dropped by parachute at Barrio on March the 25th, 1945. Samut 1 is the largest party and its main headquarters was at Belawit in East Kalimantan. It operated as far south as Long Bawan, as far east as Malinau near Tarakan, and north into Sabah. It is led by Major Tom Harrison. Gelako Imat, 80+ years old from Lawas, remembers seeing the soldiers falling from the sky.
Sampai tengah-tengah baru payung dia terbuka pecah.
Pengulu Ngimat Ayu from Pamain, about 2 hours walk from Barrio, talked about how the village people were told to go to Barrio. They were told that the Japanese are coming. Tom Harrison told them,
dia bilang kami datang ini karena Jepun ada di kawasan kita di Batang Baram ini.
He stated that they did not have any contact with the Japanese in Barrio.
Kami tidak tahu di mana tempat dia. Dia orang bilang dia ada dalam Batang Baram tapi tidak tahu di mana dia sekarang.
Ketua Kampong Bala Tu'uh also recalled the same story. He too mentioned the same.
Lama dengan perang Jepun. Ada satu hari yang kapal datang tadi. Satu hari kapal datang, tinggi dia. Barang jatuh. Apa itu? Tidak tahu orang lah. Capai sana manusia. Dia berdiri macam dia bagai-bagai. Takut kena dia lah. Takut tengok dia. Belum pernah tengok daripada dulu nenek dulu lah. Dia datang pergi agak dia tak jauh-jauh sana ada Jepun. Tidak ada. Betul ke? Betul. Satu pun tidak ada.
The people of Long Nape, however, had a different story to share. They remembered how frail the Japanese were due to limited supply of food.
Orang Jepun mau minta babi. Boleh dia kasih itu satu babi itu. Dia potong itu. Semua dia mau. Hisap itu dia punya darah. Makan itu daging itu mata.
Pak Tagal, who was about 10 years old when the Japanese were at Bacalalan, remembers his role as a runner. He mentioned that he was too young to become a soldier, so he was assigned to deliver messages and letters from one camp to another.
Indonesia dan dari camp 1 pergi camp 1, dari Bario bawa surat lagi ke Los Madu, begitulah.
Pak Tagal also remembers the story related to him about how the Japanese shot the natives at Buduno in Bacalalan.
Bila orang Jepun sampai sini malam, dia tengok sana ada api. Dia nampak itu api. Baru orang Jepun tu pasang dia punya mesin gun senapang dari sini tembak sana. Orang itu pun keluar. Tapi dia sudah kena itu senapang. Dia keluar dari itu sulap padi, tidak jauh daripada itu dia matilah.
Sumut II, with its initial headquarters, was established at the old government fort at Long Aka on the Baram River. It focuses its efforts along the Baram and Tutoh rivers and their tributaries. It was led by Major Toby Carter. Ngo Oyok, alias Tama Usun from Long Atip, now in his 90s, still recalls his experiences while working with the Sumut operation. Ngo Oyok also told his story about how he and 4 other men went down to the river to investigate the presence of the Japanese. When they reached the river, they saw 2 Japanese soldiers taking a bath at the riverbank. He related his near-miss experience when a bullet grazed the side of his right eye.
Bunyi peluru. Ada sini. Wah, saya tidak tahu kena. Bunyi saja di sana. Apalagi darah, polok. Saya pegang, ini sudah kena. Inilah dia. Kalau sikit lagi masuk sini, habis. Saya nasib dah jauh sini.
Our continuous search for local heroes who served alongside the white operatives in Sumut II brought us to Marudi. Marudi is a quiet town situated inland from Miri on the Baram River in the north of Sarawak. It is roughly 65 kilometers from Miri town. Here, we managed to capture the experiences of 3 men: Abdul Manan Muhammad Zain Galau, aged 86, Suhaili bin Nasir, 87 years old, both from Kampong Padang Kerbau Marudi, and Putit Batno, a 102-year-old man who was from Kampong Seberang. In his sharing about his experience during World War II, Abdul Manan Muhammad Zain Galau stated,
banyak masih ingat saya itu. Ya, masa Jepun tahun 45. Masih dalam sekolah saya. Bila gagal di Jepun, terpaksa ikutlah orang putih. Masa saya dulu suka benar saya main senapang.
When asked what he did during the war, he said,
Apa aja ada sama saya. Suruhnya ambil macam-macam apa nak disuruhnya ambil lah. Bila si ambil lah, tinggal bapak bego. Bila masa ni bertembak, ikut je bertembak.
Apparently, he got into the war because of his father.
Tinggal bapak saja. Nya kerja di pejabat daerah. Tinggal bapak rapi gila dengan sidak. Jadi tinggal bapak dulu madah tu tempat. Jadi sidak pergi sialah. Ada 20-30 orang.
In the written document, there was mention of only 18 European operatives who were tasked to stop the Japanese from escaping inland. 2 of the operatives mentioned were Major Carter and Major Harrison.
Masa orang pakai perahu Jepun masuk perahu suka ngikut lah. Jangan orang putih, tapi orang putih saya ada perahu terpaksa ngikut Jepun.
Mun orang tembak kelak, Jepun kelak tembak orang putih. Saya tembak Jepun. Untuk siapa nak ditembak, nak dibunuh.
When asked about the women and the children,
Atau dalam hutan kebanyakan lah, macam saya dengar mak dulu dalam hutan sampai apa nama Jepun siada lagi ada 2 bulan. Jahit Jepun. Saya atau beberapa kali kena lonsen. Diberinya rutan bah. Si mau apa? Si mau dato sudah. Oh Jepun tu si baik dia budi. Itu bagus. Nya nolong.
Asked if they were paid during that time,
Saya ada beri duit. Latihan ada. Kadang-kadang sehari ya. Habis sehari petang lain dah jalan.
from his story, it seems that he was a teenager when it all happened. Caught in the turmoil of war, like everyone else, his main aim at the time was to survive. The next man interviewed was Suhaili bin Nasir, who ran away from Miri back to his hometown, Marudi. He went further upriver to Batu Blah in the Baram area for about a month before he came back to Marudi. He began his sharing by telling us about the Japanese invasion in the 1940s.
Tahun 1940, masa saya lagi bujang lah, ura-ura Jepun nak datang.
At the end of 1941, the Japanese did come to Miri.
Dalam tahun 1945, masa saya dulu ditinjau, lari lagi masih. Bila saya balik ke Brode, dengan orang putih sudah ada ke Brode. Bila datang ke Brode, ada berjumpa dengan Major Kata. Madah kami baru datang dari dulu tinjau, sebab lari di kepung di Jepun. Bila dengar orang putih datang, kami turun.
He stated that the white soldiers were already here in their uniforms at the fort.
Nya ada meri senjata api dengan orang-orang Jambianya bekerja jadi soja. Dan dah masuk dengan saya din pun. Masuk jadi soja, orang putih lagi. Betul bertukar daripada Jepun ke orang putih. Diberinya senapang, PO3. Selepas saya terus masuk jadi polis. Jadi polis orang putih. Masa soja. Digelar sidak SRD. Jadi sudah bekerja dengannya, cuma gaji diterima RM18 saja sebulan. Kerja nombor 1 sekali jaga di kubu ya. Dan kami juga disuruhnya dengar di sini ada Jepun. Sebab Jepun masa ya ada lari ke hutan-hutan di Bramdo.
When asked about the training provided by the white operatives,
saya ada latihan. Beri senapang, berinya uniform, lekat bekerja jaga kubu ya.
when asked where the Japanese were then, he relates.
Tidak Jepun ya datang daripada Miri pakai kapal Cina lah, bot. Selepas saya naik dari Kampung Ridan, ke Ridan jalan kaki terus ke Kampung Narung. Ada kedaknya berjalan ke Kampung Dagang. Di Kampung Narung ada bertembak juga, ada Kampung Narung mati di sana Nabiat. Ipar saya, Haji Fahmi, yang datang dari Ulu lari. Bila sampai ke rumah dengar ada Jepunnya berkayuh, nyebrang pakai sungai. Bila sungainya kena tembak oleh askar Jepun daripada rumah Datuk sementara dekat masjid. Tujuannya nak pergi ke Lubuk Nibong dan terus melari dulu. Semasa ia dilihat oleh Jepun daripada kampung dagang rumah Datuk sementara dulu. Ditembaknya dari tiada seberangnya. Ada 4 orang anaknya meninggal saya. Dan tidak tua ya, dapat berlari diri, Nabiak saja yang kena. Termasuk dengan bininya, mentuanya, kena kematian di sini. Dalam perahu ya. Lekas ditinggal, tidak terus lari, naik ke atas, tinggal perahu ya, nyut dia aja. Dengan mayat bininya, dengan mayat laki, mentuanya. Si dia tahu lagi udah nyut. Dan tidak terus lari kulu lah, sampai ke Benawa.
Nya pergi cuma ada 4 hari aja. Habis Jepun tiada, nya balik lagi.
Kampong Benawa is located 3 hours journey away from Marudi by express boat. It is the most remote Muslim settlement in Miri. Back then, the journey could have taken days. He indicated that
Masih ada orang tua-tua lagi. Cuma saya dengan putih yang enggak tinggal.
reflecting on life during the war, Suhaili stated,
yang saya pernah dijumpa saya dalam hidup saya lah sampai umur 87 tahun tu sengsara. Bila aja Jepun datang, barang-barang saya ada masuk, kain-kain isi ada lagi masuk, kedai-kedai tinggal kuang aja. Lepas ya, bila udah sampai ke akhirnya baru ada orang putih datang.
The terrifying thing during that time,
Jepun dah ganas. Si pernah saya melihat orang ganas ke dia. Belum lagi ditanya, bapak ditamparnya dulu, ditendang. Kempetai, tempat saya bekerja di balai polis.
the Kempetai were the military police arm of the Imperial Japanese Army, who made frequent use of torture.
Udah masa orang putih ya si ada maulah kerja dengan halus manis, dibayarnya gaji, sungguh pun tak besar, ada resen diberinya masa soja orang putih. Dan tidak ya ni si ada kata ya lah. Jadi sebab dia lah saya lihat penduduk di situ lah sebojik nyokong orang putih. Jadi masa habis Jepun orang putih datang, bila sampai ke situ yang nunggah orang-orang kampung, maknanya mungkin ceramah di kubu di kubu lama lah. Ada banyak orang kami juga yang ada askar orang putih ada datang, apa-apa kesusahan kita orang madah lah dengan tidak. Jadi kami rasa lah Jepun dengan orang putih berbezanya jauh sekali. Masa Jepun kita bertakutan dengan askar. Masa orang putih hendak, kami polanya macam kawan. Tidak pun baik berceramah-ceramah ngelakar dengan kita dan beri apa-apa pendapatnya, ngajar-ngajar. Masa Jepun datang situ, masa ya 3 buah sekolah aja di Moji itu. Sekolah Chonghua diduduk oleh orang Cina, penuntut orang Cina. Good Shepherd di orang-orang Ulu. Datuk Seramet ya orang-orang Melayu. Berbeza dengan masa itu 74 buah sekolah rendah. Ada 6 buah sekolah menengah.
Putit bin Matnor, alias Abu Bakar, a 102-year-old man, was the next person we interviewed. He remembered clearly about the battle at Ridan.
Orang Jepun Ridan nama semua orang askar 380. 300 Iban, 80 orang putih. Berperang pukul 5 pagi. Palat jerai Ridan. Bertembak budaya. Jadi bila bertembak, Jepun tadi sudah banyak mati juga. Jadi ada sebuah perahu namanya Masjid Pucit masuk ke Ridan. Bila nya masuk ke Ridan, sampai ke tengah raya tu nya sudah berkumpul di sia. 60 lebih tubuhnya. Tapi nya si nembak. Nya banyak mati juga. Bila nya si nembak, kami pulang. Bila kami pulang ke rumah, dia ku bini ku ngaruk nasi. Ai jangan aku lari kita Jepun datangnya. Kami lari udah bila lari pulang ke rumah, mentua aku sakit perempuannya. Sikut ku. Udah ada nya dilantin Datuk Tugu Taha ya Jepunnya. Mbak mesin gun. Udah kami lari ke rumah, ya baunya nembak. Dia berkayu pakai perahu sampai Kuala Singa. Upah ada merah-merah di dia. Upahnya orang putih sudah ada di dia.
This scenario was also mentioned by Suhaili when he shared his story about the killing of his brother-in-law. The red color he mentioned was from the blood of the Japanese soldiers killed by the white operatives and the guerrillas.
Ada orang kita Melayu, seorang Wandul namanya. Kali kurang lebih sebulan lah kami lari pergi Sinjang non. Sinjang dekat sudah maunya dan buang surat dah Jepun dah selain dah sudah. Saya dah pulang sampai Utara. Ya. Bekerja dengan British. Mereka sudah megang negeri itu dah. Yang sudah kalah sudah. Kami 2 orang kan Melayu. Seorang orang Kenyat. Ilun Tingang orang Kenyat, orang Longsan. Kepala kerja tu Tuan Meja kata. Kami saya dah mati, Jepun banyak mati.
The Japanese were killed by the Iban guerrillas. They were shot and beheaded at the side of the Redan River. Their bodies left unattended after that. A similar incident was related by Abdul Manan in his story. He then talked about the burning incident.
Jadi Jepunnya semuanya 13 orang. Ingwan anak ketikang orang Cina Bakung. Nama motor 1000 lugu. Sampai ke terekan dicabutnya husah. Air masuk. Bila masuk air bawa ujung-ujung Jepun nak karam. Ingwan makanya berenang. Bila lagi ke tepi Jepun mudah nak cip mana berenang matilah. Bila mati jadi 2-3 hari mayat saya pun timbul semua. Sudah ada ngembak kayu lebih sepancang kayu. Minyak ada 2 ton besar. Cuma mayat sudah sampai ke tebing macamnya di penyipah. Dia tidak pun ngangkat. Tu sudah di Pulau Paris. Mayat tadi cukup yang bertemu buritnya 13 orang. Susunya kayu dia tuang minyak. Pukul 10-nya nunuk. Ya Rabbi, peletup.
The burning lasted till noontime. Then, they took the ashes and put them into small boxes and labeled them properly and placed them on a table. The leader lit 2 candles at the side. He pulled out his sword and sang the Migayo song. One Abdul Rahman, Datuk Tuanku Taha, though he did not fight as a soldier during World War II, he did experience the chaotic and daunting moments during that time. He shared with us his story during the Japanese occupation in Marudi. He told us that in 1941, the situation in Marudi was very frantic. There were many looters.
Jepun dah ada, Jepun dah nahan miri aja, yang saya datang ke Marudi. Kami orang Marudi saya dapat apa-apa. Kami tak usah ada pemerintah kata Dayak. Semua orang masih ada orang berkuasa bah. Orang tua akan berunding lah dengan orang kampung, orang apa, tutua kampung apa. Bagus kita tu jemput Jepun ajak datang masuk.
Suhaili, in his interview, talked about the same invitation.
Dia datang ke Marudi itu sebab dijemput oleh Datuk Tuanku Taha.
Abdul Rahman then told us how the Japanese were invited.
Jadi ialah suruh orang 3 orang pengulu, ada orang dengannya sama-sama pergi ke Bakung, dari Bakung berjalan kaki pergi ke Miri. Berunding dengan Jepun Cina minta masuk.
He also told us about the Semut operatives in Barrio, how they sent secret messages using the matchbox to his father, Tuanku Taha.
Kata orang ada orang putih di Barrio. Digelarnya Semut. Semut dia memulanya datang. Yang memula tu nya connect dengan rumah bah, yang ngirum sikit macis. Macis crash Macis sebagai saudara. Dalamnya ada note. Tulis surat, tulis ing mirah. Tulis ing mirah. Ing mirah tulisnya macam tidak ada situ, ada berapa orang putih apa tu sia-sia. Kita jamak maulah gorila katanya.
He shared with us the movement of the operatives from Barrio.
Sudah lama-lamanya berusnya turun pergi Dok Mato. Dalam pada waktu Jepun dia ada dia turunnya pergi Langakah. Turun makin turun ke bawah tu nya. Sudah lama-lama macam turun sampai ke lama. Sudah lama ya. Yang duit nasihat orang, jangan seorang putuk, suruh mupuk-mupuk lari, nanya terkejut bila lari, minah-minah duit pun. Jadi macam ni kan dekat dia Jepun sudah tahu. Kali datang mempunyai bom, cinta orang putih kan, Jepun tujuh macam. Jadi orang Timur Dayak dia, dia pancungnya kepala, sebelahnya perut, dia regangnya tangan, tidak tujuh, tingkah dia perahu, dia anyut dia perahu. Ke Jepun pun lari, orang putih masih diam sia. Sudah lama-lama dicek ada Jepun datang.
This story matched the story shared by Putit when he mentioned about the red color river scene.
Tu gambar tu lah tuan DC tuan hadirnya tu district officer. Tu gambar saya. Tu Datuk Jen Kalau.
Semut 3, operating from the Ulu to the headwaters of the Rejang River in southern Sarawak. It proceeded downriver to Kapit, which became its most permanent headquarters. Major Sokon was the commander of Semut 3. Our first informant in the Song and Kapit area, Gindi Anak Timbun, told us that he was just a teenager during the war. The stories he heard were told by his father. He said his grandfather, Mengong, was killed by the Japanese. As he recalled, 5 people were killed then.
Ya ketemu ko dito. Mungguang sebab akhir kaminya ngau sapa ugol punya. Bangau sapa si ko dak saya. Bangau. Ciga bigau. Ya temu ko 4. Temu ko si ko na temu ko si ko. Ko bawang nama. Orang nang makot.
He also told us about how the people from Song chased the Japanese down the Rejang River to Kanawit and Cebu. They came in 30 boats with at least 5 people in each boat. He stated that at first, the Iban were helping the Japanese.
Anyuah sebab sedaru Jepun, namin yang tahu sedaru Jepun punya. Sudah, punya apa orang putih tan, engau tanya lain katanya. Pusian punya, ngaleh punya pihak.
He was saying that because the Japanese were giving a hard time to our people. He also stated that those who worked as Japanese soldiers were also having a hard time because of the Japanese rules. The Japanese were saying to the people that they were the ruler and the British had been defeated by them. They were trying to convince the people that it would be better for the people if the Japanese ruled. After the Japanese era, the lives of the people were hard as food were limited.
Sampai ngato, berkayuah sampai kilekin, makanya pengambil udah Jepun. Ngambil muluang apa uyak dia, namanya, buat kenangan darau kan, matu darau. Kian sakit punya, sakit kumaju punya, ngambil muluang meringak nama saya ke dempak apa bala melanau dia ngambil muluang punya.
They ran out of food because their farming activities were interrupted by the war. The fighting normally happened during the day and never at night time. There were guns, but not too many. They were old guns, given by the British. It is a different one, Senapang Rujak. He showed us how to load the gun before it was fired. The next informant was Melik Anak Engkulau from Nanga Selibut, Song, who is now about 90 years old. He was interviewed at Rumah Sylvester Panau, Nanga Terisau, Song.
Saya ingat lepas sebuah kumpul ngau berperang ngau Jepun dengan bergoyang sampai selujung. Tidak ni buang, tidak apa aku cuba jenat mintiang mana ya ngau ngau Jepun cubanya. Sejak mah ngau timbak dia coba, perlu juga coba, nak ngaunya, perlu juga, tibanya, kituain, ngari kura putih ya, sejin mah coba mayanya, kura putih ya tanya coba sejin bari, ya sejuan kebar pesenai, itu aja.
Melik used to work for the Japanese.
Kekinian aku bisa mula dito sebanyak kami agak jembatan desuang tu, sebab mamok agak kami jembatan. Nyunaknya tadi melban adat Jepun sangat sebab adanya coba garamnya nadai ten nadai sebagainya tidak yang pun kena tadi lebih ya tadi kadat ya kebekepit berpalok. Yang perhati ya cobanya yang ambilnya coba. Dia yang numpaknya, nyak baru datang sejin barinya coba. Dia di perang orangnya.
And when the supplies of salt and rice became scarce, they began robbing the shops. The group was headed by Pengulu Masang of Katipas Song. Sergeant Barry came after the robbing incident happened, and the war started. He was the only white soldier at that time.
Adanya Tidak yang layang sebenarnya Jepun kenimak tidak layang dia. Nah tibasnya.
Jepun nimak putih.
Nimak bulan putih ngoiban mana sama-sama. Puluh macam coba. Sekoi aja depan perahu bukan masajuan timak Jepun dia coba.
During that time, he said that the Iban only had spears and parangs and no guns. The guns they got were from the Japanese soldiers they had killed.
Yang orang putih ngebuang dia coba. Kami beranteknya dulunya. Yang buang soang coba. Tiga buang nak mentup coba. Ya daik tu aja. Bukan aku mira. Daik kita tu aja. Semua tidak coba. Dengan berguang nak coba. Dua tidak. Tidak ya dulu tiga. Nengah perlu juang. Kena sangkuah makanya. Kena budak. Kena dukuk makanya. Nyarai. Nyarai ni. Nyarai ni ikhlas napa yang sebab kita ketemu brand kena Jepun namanya. Kami dengan tujuan balat. Berapa de betul pesalinya balas sejumlah hatai. Kami berapa dia.
When asked about the women and children, Melik stated that during the bombing, they were sent to hide in the jungle so that they were safe. He recalled,
Tanyuang pada timah Jepun. Ya kijua pai soang tu, sudah bunuh perang di situ coba. Dari yang manapnya, gagai kami dengan sebacangnya coba. Nauliah ya. Akhirnya dari kemanap ini si cincian tu sementara air besar lagi. Nyata dengan manapnya ya kelima Tanyuang. Ya, mana sabuang ketemuang. Nyame aku minat sebut barinya kunjet beraguam. Kunjet beraguam ya. Dumare kunjet beraguam. Nyai hidup coba terus sibawainya.
Another story he told us was about 3 Iban men who were so eager to kill the Japanese and decided to take the risk by rowing across the Rijang River. They had been told not to do so by Temongong Ko and Juga, their leaders then. As a result, one was shot and killed. The other 2 managed to escape unhurt.
Mana keciban bakal sebab betuang. Nya kiko bakal dengan buang. Tetap Jepun kita. Sama pernah sama surat betul pada bepada Jepun.
Melik recognized Temongong Juga as the king of the Iban.
Ianya Temongong tu tadi, lepas dia saja Raja Iban, atau ia saja Raja Perang kita Iban, banyak Temongong. Gaya sampai Jepun perang punya ngalah ke Ulu tu ianya mengulu. Ke perang, bakal putihnya. Macam tu tadi pihak ke perang. Kau kayau kita Iban. Daripada yang ajar banyak Jepun yang coba mengatur belaya madah ke adat Jepun ke bepalo musanya buriak mau pisau gamit garam ya adat sebaya kesuai coba Raja Iban.
Wilfred Billy Pangau of Kapit, who currently works as the chairman of Dewan Suara Kapit, also has his share of the story about the war. The stories he shared were those he heard from the elders. One other incident he relates to us was about 2 Japanese soldiers in the Seranau area, 10 minutes from the current Kapit Bazaar, tried to escape from the Iban. They ran into an Iban in a small boat at the riverbank. They managed to talk him into helping them. Hiding his weapons from the enemies, the man agreed to help, but with no intent to help them escape. He quickly told the soldiers since his boat was small, he could only take in one of them at a time. He then rowed his boat to a spot where the riverbank is very muddy and asked the soldier to get down so they could go back to collect the other one. As the bank was muddy, the Japanese soldier got both his feet stuck in the mud and could not move. The Iban man took this opportunity to kill him with his spear. He then turned back to get the second soldier and did the same. Sumut 4 operated along the coast between Bintulu and Muka. It was to be led by Lieutenant Shafi in the absence of Major Jinkins. Sumut 4 was formed in August 1945. It was assigned to cover the coastal area from Tanjung Sirik in Cebu to Miri. They were to keep their eyes on the Japanese forces withdrawing south. Shafi and his team carried out intelligence works into the Similajau and Muka. However, since most of the Japanese troops had evacuated into the interior, Sumut 4 was dissolved. Japri Bujang Masli, the acting CEO of the Pustaka Negeri Sarawak of the Sarawak State Library, begins by sharing with us the main objectives of the Unsung Heroes project.
In this project, the Unsung Heroes, voices of the Sarawakian guerrillas of Z Special Unit, is actually an effort for us to document the involvement of local fighters during the Japanese occupation, because the existing documentation, especially books and articles written, mainly covering the involvement of Europeans and the Westerners. So these people who are mainly from the villages and longhouses in Sarawak, if there is no effort to document and record this, then people will not know there are actually a lot more local guerrillas, which they call Z Special Unit. I think the subgroups of these guerrillas were called Semut 1, 2, 3 and so on.
He further stated how the project fits into the 4 pillars of the ubiquitous library that Pustaka is involved in.
The 4 pillars are, the first one is teaching, the second one is integration, the third one is application, and of course the fourth one is knowledge discovery. These pillars is being identified for projects like this to make sure that whatever we come up with has a value in terms of teaching. There is a possibility of integrating with other efforts like tourism and others, and of course applications. How do we apply this the product of this research in our everyday life or in future research and so on. Of course, knowledge discovery in terms of future discovery, and of course the existing discovery of the research team.
He concludes by stating the role of Pustaka Negeri Sarawak.
Pustaka Negeri Sarawak is an institution which is entrusted to develop as an excellence center for Sarawakiana related resources, meaning to say all information regarding Sarawak. So of course existing publications or even previous publications on Sarawak, we are continuously collecting them and put them at the Pustaka Negeri for the people to refer, for the researchers to use. And of course, apart from that, there are other aspects of Sarawak state and even Sarawak people who are not yet being documented, not just historically, but the cultural parts, the social lives and so on. So this effort of documenting the life of people of Sarawak, the dying cultures and so on, is ongoing. This is ongoing. In terms of these Z Special Units, we will look at the product of this research. If there is any needs to do further studies, we will evaluate it accordingly. But effort is not just limited to this. As I said, we do also document about foods, about music, dances and so on, especially those traditional cultures which are classified as dying cultures, no longer being practiced by the younger people. So there are some surviving old folks who knows about all these things, but if you don't record it now, then it might be lost forever.
We managed to capture the views of individuals from different age groups on the impact of World War II on the economy, social and political aspects. We also captured how much they know about the war in general. Josephine Ling Laing, 17 years old, is a student from one of the schools in Miri.
Apa yang saya tahu pasal Perang Dunia Kedua adalah kedatangan Jepun ke Malaysia dan menjajah negara luar juga. Perang Dunia Kedua juga berlaku di Miri, di mana kapal Jepun mendarat di Tanjung dan membuat camp di Sarawak, di Miri terutamanya. Salah satu mangsanya adalah Datuk Seri Miri, di mana mereka kerana kesan tersebut dia melarikan diri ke kawasan Baram, Bakung terutamanya, dan membuka tanah di sana. Kehidupan mereka sangat mencabar dan dia juga terpaksa hidup tanpa beras dan mereka makan ubi kayu.
The next person is Lilian Baun Pulo, 28 years old, who comes from Long Makaba and now working with Pustaka Miri.
Regarding World War II, I know less information or little information about it until I being asked by my supervisor to assist the researcher in gather the information about the World War II, which is the Operation Semut. And for sure, I want to get more information about this since this is our heritage and I want to read more about it.
Sofina Tan, also working with Pustaka Miri, is 39 years old. She comes from Kuching.
When we're talking about World War II, from what I learned in school as well as from what I have read, the impact of the invasion, as we speak, the Japanese invasion particularly, it has actually caused some impacts, vast impacts on economics, politics as well as social. And from my point of view, if they did not come, the Japanese as well as those our savior, as we speak, the British, the Australians, or those from the Allies, things wouldn't be what it is now, because they have brought in a lot of development as well as awareness, and we should be thankful because they have given us an opportunity to become a nation on our own.
The next one is Lau Sieng Hua, 42 years old, from Cebu.
Actually, I don't know a lot, but for the impact to the economy, yeah, definitely it's really affect the economy because all the people cannot go out to work because of the war itself. Besides economy, I think the worst thing is to the people. The people have to live, are really suffering because of it. Yeah, and then they don't have enough food. They have to run to find a safe place for them to hide. And then I think a lot of, especially women, will be, is affected due to this war.
The last people we interviewed were Alice Urud and Maui Taib from Curtin University.
In my view, the political impact of the Second World War was that it has ended the British dominance of their power in Malaya and also in Borneo at that point of time. And when the Japanese came, there was a challenge to the authority. They are not the sole authority anymore. And the other impact that came about as a consequence of the World War among the locals was that it gave rise to nationalism, and a few group of nationalist movements have come about. Among others were the communists, and there were also various other political groups that came off, which consequently resulted in the independence of Malaya. And this spread to Borneo as well. If I remember my history correctly, the Cobalt Commission was set up to negotiate the formation of Malaysia.
My uncles, my father, my grandmother told us about the Japanese occupations in World War II. Like they don't have enough food, they don't have clothes, they have to survive on jungle produce. The hardship during the Japanese occupation also makes people become more creative. World War II has made us realize we are also able to manage ourselves. We should not be too dependent on the British. Young people are not like really aware of our independence and takes our country's sovereignty lightly.
The team leader of the project reflected on her experience, concerns and challenges while completing the research.
We started the project on the unsung native heroes in June 2012. While doing the project, I learned a lot about, or I would say I learned more about the history of Sarawak. I learned a lot more about the natives who have helped in the war. I would like to share the challenges that we went through while doing this project, while searching for the people and while trying to get to the places that we have identified where these people are. It was quite, I would say, a challenge because the journey to the places are quite far. Yeah. For example, when we want to go to Long Nape or Bak Kelalan, the drives was quite long. We had to stop our journey because it was raining heavily and the road was slippery. But of course, we reached our destination safely. That's just one of the challenges. But then when we meet the people, my concern was that how much do they still remember, or how much would they add on, or how much of it really happened then. We don't know, the group don't know. But later on, when we analyze the data and we look at the interview, and we found that a lot of the story told by them actually stated also in the document written by the Western writer and also a few of the local writers. I hope that we have created, or we can create awareness among the youngsters especially about the sacrifice of the elders during the World War, and hopefully they don't take what we have today lightly, because our ancestors and way back during World War II, they have done a lot to ensure the safety of our country. Before I end, on behalf of my team, I would like to express our utmost gratitude to those who have helped us during this project. I also would like to express our condolences to the family who have lost their loved ones during the World War II, especially those who fought as the guerrilla at that time.
Hopefully, more collaborative efforts in documenting projects of this nature could be done in the future to ensure riches of the past are captured and passed on to the generations to come.